Hello everybody, Typhon Carter here. I just messaged Christos on Smug Tours, telling him that, hey look, where are you guys starting? I'm live right now. Christos is scheduled to play We Free Kings just about any minute. The game should have started like 7 or 8 minutes ago, but here we are. They should be starting soon. Christos back in the lineup for Tigers after Malekith kind of crashed out last week against PDC, to say the least, and got moved to BW. He's playing We Free Kings. We Free Kings coming off and win against BKC. Looks like these gentlemen have started. As I was saying, We Free Kings coming off of a win last week against BKC, and Christos coming back to the lineup after a rough loss against Boyd the last time they played. And we have a Zong and Milotic shown from Christos, and We Free King showing a Specs Heatran with that overheat. We Free King showing a Celebi on his side. As for what Christos' team might be, Christos' team could be looking like some kind of stally build, very fat team, and there's the Clefable, so definitely supports what I think he has going in the back. As for We Free Kings' side, a little bit more ambiguous. You got the Specs Heatran, you got Stealth Rock Celebi, presumably as the primary Breloom check. But again, I don't think Christos has brought Breloom here, unless it's like some kind of Leech Seeds, Protect, Breloom kind of build. That said though, Celebi could be a lot of things really. If it's rocks, it usually will have Recover. The last two moves can be something like Grass Knot plus Thunder Wave, could be Grass Knot plus a hit power, like Hit Power Fire, for example. Could even be something like U-Turn. Could be a lot of things, really. And we are 4 turns in to this match. And I wonder what else We Free Kings has in the back that can break this team. And the Bronzong set, we're not too sure what the set is. Could be something like Payback Toxic, that's a possibility on the Bronzong. The Bronzong could run like a fair amount of things on stall in general. Because again, you have like the Milotic. The Milotic could be something like one of those Bruno builds with like Surf plus Hidden Power Electric. Hidden Power Electric usually used to handle, say, Gyarados. Because Gyarados, especially if it's like, say, Taunt Gyara, that can be a real nuisance for these kind of teams. Could also just be something a little more typical, like, Surf Ice Beam. That's another possibility to consider, and Celebi showing Grass Knot, and Christos' Clefable unsurprisingly has Knockoff. That said, though, I'm not really sure if We Free Kings actually has a great knock switch in, especially if he's just content to stay in with Celebi like this. Either that or We Free Kings is playing the long game and trying to PP stall, or trying to make Christos waste knock PP. That's something else to consider. And Wish is shown on the Clefable. Now, if this is Wish, this tells me a couple things. It tells me that this might be Wish Protect with like Knock Seismic Toss. That's a popular combination that we've seen on Clef in SPL a couple times here and there. And yeah, Christos just kind of being conservative. We have a bit of a stalemate. Playing a little bit of game of chicken, as neither player really wants to switch into each other. And you're probably wondering, oh, why hasn't Christos gone Bronzong yet? My first guess as to why that may be the case is because he probably doesn't want to invite in Heatran, maybe doesn't want to invite in a Spinner, that kind of thing. Because again, Bronzong. Okay, so Christos finally goes Bronzong here. Probably just weary of the Hidden Power Fire Mage, just waiting for We Free Kings to like slip up and show it, but it will not be shown today. If I'm Christos, this is a great chance to get rocks up. And Starmie is brought out here. So Starmie is going to definitely keep rocks off permanently. especially because like the PP on Rapid Spin is going to outweigh the Stealth Rock PP unless he has a spinner, or sorry, a ghost. But Christos opts to boom here to get rid of the Starmie, so I guess Christos does have a spin blocker and is willing to play without Stealth Rocks on the field, if he's willing to make that kind of move very early. And Gliscor is brought up here as kind of a mid-ground into like Heatran and Celebi, because again, Celebi usually not immediately threatening to the Gliscor. And as for Tyranitar does not want to deal with this Gliscor at all. And Nidoqueen is brought out here. With Starmie gone, this means that Nidoqueen can just throw up Toxic Spikes, and two of Weefree King's Pokemon are Toxic Spikes vulnerable, such as the Celebi and the Tyranitar. That said, Zapdos without Stealth Rocks on the field will be pretty annoying for Christos to break through consistently. And not to mention that Zapdos without Stealth Rocks on the field is also able to kind of PP stall a lot more effectively with pressure, especially because for Weefree Kings, this is looking to be a very long game. As for what Weefree Kings' Tyranitar set might be, it could be like Choice Scarf. I think Choice Scarf on this team makes a lot of sense because the team is otherwise really Gengar weak, so you want to have a way to deal with that. And Toxic Spikes will go up. If Christos has Protect, this is a great time to click Protect, gain some recovery back with Black Sludge. And Power again, floods right into the Protect. And Christos will probably look to bring the Clefable in. Yeah, Toxic Spike's going to be a real problem for Weefree Kings, especially because his primary progress makers looks to be Heatran, which is walled by Clefable, sorry, and Tyranitar, which is going to be on a permanent timer if it doesn't have any lefties, which it usually does not. So there's that to consider. Not to mention, like, Toxic Spikes on this team makes a lot of sense. It synergizes well with Protect Clefable and presumably Protect Bronzong, if Christos had that. So, again, I assume Christos' last is probably like Jirachi. So, like, maybe it's like a Sub-Rachi, like one of those Osgood sets with Sub-CM Thunder, Ironhead Jirachi. That's like something that could be. In the back could just be like regular Wish Protect Jirachi, like just having a couple of Protect users, like a triple Protect setup, or like something that can really make those Toxic Spikes damage really kick in over time. And Clefable going to just casually Seismic Toss to zap those. Would be a good time for Christos to get the knockoff, and does just that. Knocks off the Zapdos. That Zapdos will permanently be taking Sand Chip as long as it is on the field. So in the long term, that's going to be really nice for Christos because of the fact that you can make the Zapdos have to waste a little bit more Roost PP. However, Christos is going to have to be careful about Seismic Tossing too liberally, to say the least, especially against the Zapdos. And again, for Weefree Kings, he's going to have to focus on playing that PP stall game. But it's going to be a lot more difficult to do as long as Toxic Spikes are up on the field, especially considering they can't be removed, as I stated earlier. Toss again. And really, Weefree Kings is just looking to try to make the Clefable waste as much attack PP as possible with Seismic Toss and Knockoff. Especially considering, like, you know, their PP is cut in half, essentially, as long as Zapdos is alive. So that's like 32 attack turns we're looking at. But Christos has burnt quite a few, and Christos is going to have to be careful. But again, I don't know if Christos has a particularly great option outside the Clefable to try to fight off the Zapdos. And we got a bit of a stalemate again, as I said before. As for how both these players this season have gone so far, We Free Kings, again, he's had a very difficult season, to say the least. Outside of his win against BKC last week, like after his week 1 win against Reader, I think he lost like 4 in a row or something like that. And so he's had a rough time, to say the least. Whereas for Christos was drafted kind of as a backup to Malekith initially, but Malekith ended up performing a little bit poorly in DPP, and then Malekith got moved to black and white for a handful of weeks here and there. Christos filled in. His games were like either okay or not the most remarkable games. Like it was okay. And then they tried Malekith again last week, didn't win this game, so Christos is back playing DPP. And Christos, he's been kind of a grinder for a long time. Played DPP for a long time. Played in World Cup for Greece. You know, he's had some success here and there. Had a very good run last year at DPP Cup semis, year prior. And again, we have a bit of a stalemate going on. This song and dance is going to be going on for a while. That said, and again, as for We Free Kings, usually DPP is not his primary tier. He generally plays like, you know, black and white, with some other tiers. And again, it's been a trying season, but We Free Kings, I think he's been kind of getting. I think there's been a handful of weeks where like kind of just got like not the most ideal matchups per se, or ran into some really unusual stuff, or like they just tried to fish too hard. But you know, been a trying season for Excal and We Free Kings, and this is looking to be another long duel between these gentlemen. And we are 35 turns in, no notable progress. As for what I think We Free Kings' last could be, I assume there maybe is a second steel type, probably a Jirachi of some kind on We Free Kings' end. Because like I said, most DPP teams, you generally want to have at least 2 steel types, just so that you can handle having like 2 Iron Head resists. That's kind of the primary thing. And also like having like just some resilience to status, among other things. Like steel is just a very good typing in PvP in general. And again, like, yeah, I fully expect a Jirachi from both players. And generally, with like T-Spikes, like sub Jirachi suddenly becomes a lot more dangerous, assuming Christos' last is that if it's the more even the more conventional Wish Protect Jirachi on this build, but I highly doubt it is because of the fact that the Fable has shown to be Wish Protect itself, so running double Wish would be kind of interesting, to say the least, but if it's something like Sub-Jirachi with like say free attacks, like a pseudo win con, or like a progress maker on these kind of teams, that's a possibility too. And I don't know, if I'm Christos, like, I'd maybe try to make a handful of picks here and there, try to make the Zapdos Waste Thunderbolt PP. That's something I would seriously consider, like maybe bring it in a handful of times here there. But obviously Christos has to be careful of the Zapdos just HP icing the Gliscor into switch, because if he does, because that happens, like the Gliscor's in a really, really bad spot. Right, so it's things like that you gotta keep an eye out for. And again, Celebi can't really switch in because of Permatoxic spikes damage, like just poison, losing like 12% each turn. That's gonna be quite the issue. And Jirachi is in fact shown to be last and gets burned on that turn with a raw Thunder Wave that was not revealed until now from We Free Kings. That is dire for Christos, and I think Christos may have just gotten a little too impatient there, bringing in the Jirachi that early. If this is if this is like Wish Protect Jirachi, that's like negligible. But if this is, it is Thunder. Yeah, no, this is sub Iron Head Thunder Jirachi. This is a set that Osgood popularized a while back. And Nidoqueen brought out here. And We Free King's trying to fish for a Fire Punch burn on something. Because, for example, if he gets down to Milotic, the Milotic suddenly becomes a lot less sturdy. And Christos, interestingly, opts to go for a second T-Spike layer. I guess, like, he really wants the toxic damage to stick onto Celebi and Tyranitar over time, so I guess I can respect the decision simply because of the fact that, one, you're in it for the long game, like, you're going to be looking at, like, a 100-turn plus game, and then some, probably. So I think the toxic damage could be really worth it, especially with Protect Spam. That means that you can make the damage on, say, the Tyranitar stick even more every time it's on the field. Same deal with Celebi, like, they're on a permanent timer. And I wonder, as for Christos, I wonder what his other move might be. Like, obviously, this Nidoqueen has to have Earthquake, so Earthquake, Toxic Spikes, Protect. Last move could be anything from Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Flamethrower. Those are all possibilities. Could be like Flamethrower for, like, say, Scizor, because I could see this team potentially having issues against, like, a Sword Stance Scizor. That's just, like, something I consider. Dragonite could also be a problem. Like I said, it's very feasible for, like, a lot of moveset options. And Jirachi just coming in again on this Thunder Wave attempt. And Tyranitar is brought out. If Christos has Protect, this is a great time to use it right now. If he has it, but I highly doubt it. And as for this T-Tar, T-Tar could be in a lot of trouble, but something to note about Christos' potential Jirachi set is generally these teams don't do... Oh, that's CB damage. As I was saying, generally, the only thing that really checks that Jirachi set reliably, especially with T-Spikes on the field, is probably like Gliscor, but even then, like, Gliscor would be like walled by, say, Milotic, especially, unless it's Sword Stance, but even then, it's like Milotic's never going to give it a chance to Sword Stance out. Bronzong, to a degree, could, like, force a Boom Trade, etc. Like, that's just things to think about. And Christos tried to go for a double Protect, does not get it. And that Tyranitar, in the process of trying to take out the Nidoqueen, has lost over half its health just from toxic damage alone. So this Tyranitar ain't got a lot of time to work with. So I'll be brought out here, and the Earthquake floods right into this. Taunts here, okay, interesting. The Celebi is denied recovery. And Gliscor shows Ice Fang, critical hit there. Flinch! And that Celebi is just gonna die to toxic damage. Everything that could have gone wrong for We Free Kings has gone wrong on that turn. And We Free Kings in the chat saying that he had Hidden Power Ice on the Celebi, so that's even worse for We Free Kings. The situation has gone from relatively workable to a complete disaster. Everything that could have gone wrong in that one turn did go wrong. And we are back to a 4-4 game with a Gliscor staring down a Zapdos. Gliscor can't really stay in on the Zapdos because it'll just get HP iced if he is not careful. And a lot of clock being burned here. I mean, if you're... Okay, yeah, just goes to Jirachi. That's interesting. I mean, sure, cover the Hidden Power Ice. Why not? I don't hate that idea, but again, this Jirachi is effectively cooked. Unless he shows sub right now, but no, not shown. This Jirachi should be able to take one from Tyranitar, but Christos has to be really careful here. And ooh, Gets crit there. I assume he probably would have clicked Ironhead onto the Tyranitar. So this game just suddenly got a lot more interesting. Milotic's gonna claim a kill, or at least claim something most likely, against whatever comes in. Nothing really wants to come in on this Milotic. The Heatran obviously doesn't want to come in on it. Zapdos, while it can probably live one, doesn't enjoy the idea of eating a Surf from a Milotic, or worse yet, an Ice Beam, and then say getting frozen, potentially. And this Tyranitar only really has like maybe one more attempt to come in, and We Free Kings is just going to be content sacking it and playing a 3-on-3 game. And 58 turns in, this endgame just suddenly got a lot more awkward for both players. The Zapdos being able to potentially PP stall the Clefable suddenly just looked a lot more real. And oh, this Jirachi, it's shown no item so far. And well, we ruled out it was Scarf Par. This could be Scarfrachi in the back. And okay, yeah. What do you know? It is a Scarfrachi. Yeah, my first thought when I saw like the Scarf Jirachi was just like, yeah, this team doesn't have a We Free Kings' team doesn't have a great Dragon Dance counterplay to like say DD Tyranitar specifically. So like the Jirachi being Scarf makes a lot of sense on this build, and U-turns out of the Milotic that is now choice locked. And Milotic should be relatively fast, even with 0 speed investment. I mean, if it's like, say, 198 Milotic, we're looking at 297, so it actually just outspeeds everything on We Free Kings' squad. But the U-turn there might have been a misplay, especially because of the fact that I assume what happened here was that We Free Kings assumed that Milotic was going to be faster. But to be frank, at that point, like, I think that may have been a miscalc on We Free Kings' side. So I think for him, he should just look to Ironhead, especially if his own Jirachi would, like, say, 328. If it was 328, or like even 308, for example, then yeah, I think he should have just Ironhead this Milotic down, especially because of the fact that the Milotic is choice locked and has no leftovers, and Sans just gonna wear it down permanently, and now he just has to take a bunch of damage on this Heatran against this Milotic. So I think that was a throw on We Free Kings' end. And that's a decision that could come back to bite him. And this Jirachi extremely low now, but We Free King still has a chance to salvage this with Ironhead flinches. And nope, does not get it. So this Milotic is going to take out the Heatran, or sorry, Jirachi. And now We Free Kings only has the Heatran that is weakened and a Zapdos. But really, Milotic is mildly taken out of this equation because of the fact that, one, it's choice locked and has no recovery whatsoever. And Christos just opts to attack the Zapdos there just to make it waste more Roost PP. And Clefable is brought back out. So again, in this scenario, Christos has to really be careful of the Clefable's Seismic Cost and Knock PP, because there's a very real possibility that the Clefable gets PP stalled out and then the Zapdos is able to say 1v1 the Gliscor, among other things. And yeah, We Free King's just trying to conserve his Roost PP unless he absolutely needs to use it. So that's kind of like his strategy right now to try and navigate through this endgame. Yeah, like some miscues and hacks from both ends. Christos getting the favorable Gliscor hacks against the Celebi that apparently had in-par ice. That was a very vital turn that really turned the game in Christos' favor for a bit, and then like the T-Tar critting Christos' Jirachi also kind of made things kind of even out a little bit. You know, when you're playing these very long games, like 50 plus turn, like stall versus bulky offense games, like you're gonna bound to get some hacks one way or another. Not to mention, we Free Kings could have had a real chance to get rid of the Milotic with like Iron Head flinches and like just brute force through Christos' entire team, but Christos was fortunate enough to not get insta flinch hacks with the Milotic, so there's that to take into consideration. And Glacecore on the Zapdos now. Again, Zapdos threatening a hidden power ice. Clefable comes in on this HP ice. So again, we're looking at a real grinder here. And Christos Nox again is just trying to be really careful with, like, you know, just PP in general. And yeah, We Free Kings again, like he's just trying to hold back on clicking Roost unless his Zapdos is like around half health or below half health, or like unless he absolutely has to. And for Christos, it's functionally two and a half pokes on his end. Like the Milotic can come in on the Heatran. The other thing to note is that the Heatran, even with specs, is not going to kill the Clefable. It's going to do like 70-80 at best. And even with Flamethrower specs Heatran, and modest too, mind you, it's only doing about like 40-50 on most days, unless he gets very lucky here. And yeah, like, yeah, so Clefable running real low on PP, gotta be real careful about that. We're looking at 80 turns. It's going to be 80 turns in. And this game could very well go over 100 turns, as I stated earlier. Couple things to note, just to kill some time as clock is being burnt, is that, again, for both these players, We Free Kings is key to winning this game. Is going to come down to the Zapdos versus Clefable interaction. Like I said, that's how both players are going to potentially win. And I'm not gonna lie, at first I thought bringing like just one layer of T-Spikes should have been enough for Christos, but obviously it came in quite handy getting the second layer up, especially in the Tyranitar versus Nidoqueen interaction. And Heatran brought out, again, remember, we don't have Stealth Rocks, and because of the fact that Christos' Bronzong just kind of sacked itself versus the Starmie earlier. And just worth noting is that generally Bronzong, even if it say runs Heat Proof on lead against Specs Heatran, like Specs Overheat will just always kill Bronzong, even with Heat Proof on lead. And on lead is probably the only time I would ever seriously consider running Bronzong, but that's kind of a side tangent. That's what this Heatran can do. I don't think it can do a whole lot against Christos. This is primarily because of the fact that Heatran's Flamethrower probably won't do enough. We Free Kings. Yeah, Laze is like his Discord name. But for Laze, his best option is to maybe get a crit Flamethrower or crit Overheat on the Clefable and brute force it. That's one way he could kind of set himself up for a Zapdos endgame. And Christos, like, you can't just really knock into this Heatran because of the fact that if you do that, your Clefable will be too weak against the Zapdos. So that's kind of one of the downsides of having Wish Protect over software, is just not being able to instantly heal it off, need to waste a turn, which is like a real annoyance. But again, like, Protect with Wish makes sense. You really want to make those Toxic Spikes stick. And really, in general, I think this year in SPL, like we've seen Toxic Spikes really kind of make a comeback. Even with like Clefable being omnipresent, I think the big reason why T-Spikes has come back is because of those big six builds. Like I'm talking like your Zapdos, Starmie, Jirachi, Choice Band Tyranitar, Scarf Heatran, and whatnot. Like just that kind of team making a comeback. Oh, and also Breloom as well, like on that last. Like those kind of teams making a bit of a comeback means that it is quite nice for Toxic Spikes to really abuse those, namely Starmie and whatnot, and Tyranitar to some capacity, because of the fact that one, you can usually spin block, and every time you successfully spin block, it's like the Starmie loses a lot more health, yada yada, right? Like just stuff like that. So T-Spike stall, making a comeback is real nice. And usually stall, and yeah, Overheat floods into the Protect Clefable. But as I was saying, generally, like those T-Spikes teams, like they really take advantage of traditional stall counter team picks or counter picks in general, such as Rhyperior. Like Rhyperior hates T-Spikes, and we saw this in Christos' debut game against Laurel, where like T-Spikes came in really handy against like Heracross plus Rhyperior. Like, you know, just things like that. And Napdos critting the Clefable there, so Clefable forced to protect. And Heatran, I think it's like a small chance to KO this Clefable, but Christos will probably just protect, and then like Overheat will not kill or crit. WeFreaking's opting to Flamethrower instead, and Flamethrower just not getting it done. I don't think Flamethrower's gonna get the job done at all unless he gets a crit. It is technically a 2-hit KO range, so I guess Laze is kind of just playing for that small chance for a crit Flamethrower to kill Clefable. It's kind of like his best option in this specific turn at the moment. Especially because, like I said, both these gentlemen, their PP is running real low with Clefable and Zap. Both their recovery moves just getting real low, not to mention that the Clefable can only Seismic Toss and knock off so many times. The other thing I'd say that's kind of seen a trend in coming back in SPO, especially like this year and last year, is really just Celebi as a Pokemon in general. Really been kind of making a comeback, namely Celebi, because it's a great Breloom check. Especially last year, we saw a fair bit of defensive Celebi, and then this year we've seen offensive Celebi experimented with more in general. Namely, builds such as, say, the aforementioned like Nasty Plot Celebi. We saw like Nasty Plot recover from Ladybug in week 1 against Void, and then, I mean, earlier this week we saw Laurel bring like Sword Stance Celebi. Like offensive Celebi making a comeback is pretty interesting in general. And Kingdra's comeback to DPP, especially this SPL, has been really refreshing to see, because we've seen quite a fair bit of Kingdra usage in this tournament. We saw it a lot earlier in the early weeks, like, you know, we saw it with BKC using against Void, and then even earlier this week we saw Kingdra used by Groudon, and Gliscor is brought in here. We are getting close to the end at this point, and Gliscor really just trying to bait out the Empire Ice, is trying to make the Zapdos waste valuable attack PP. Thunder Waves again. Seismic Toss. Zapdos is going to have to recover. And Christos is throwing out a wish here. And Zapdos Thunderbolting again because you want to cover the Milotic that could still be used as a sack fodder. And we are on turn 94. Again, Christos just using some protect PP, really just trying to work around the Zapdos. Tosses again. Again, Zapdos is going to have to recover. Clefable only has one seismic toss left. So Christos is going to have to make it count. Gliscor coming in on the Roost. And yeah, Christos also only has one knock left on the Clefable, so this endgame getting real hairy. Weefree King's burning a lot of clock here, trying to think about how he wants to approach this. Very, very tricky endgame to navigate so far for both players, to say the least. Weefree King's down to 120 seconds. Yeah, time running low. Christos also taking a bit of a pause in timer. Like, yeah, this is the first real pause that we've had all game. Weefree King's down to 90 seconds now. Yeah, like, he's in some real... He's got to really think about how he's going to get out of this. And I'm pretty sure the Zapdos might actually be out of boost PP. Clefable is brought back in. Heatran is brought out. So Weefree King's doubling here. And again, the Clefable only has one knock PP left, so if the Clefable opts to knock into the Heatran and comes in on a zap, then no more knock, the Heatran is going to get to keep its choice specs. However, if the Zapdos takes a seismic toss, then suddenly becomes a lot more awkward, and the Gliscor probably outspeeds the Zapdos, I'm almost certain. And here we are on turn 99, we're going to approach turn 100. I wonder if you're Christos, would you just go into Milotic here? Maybe use it as a sack, potentially, and then, like, let's say you somehow survive it. And, okay, just opts to play it safe, wishes up. Very brutal endgame right now. Jeez. Yeah, we are almost clocking. We're getting close to 40 minutes, and critical hit there, so that might have actually been rather unfortunate for Christos. And Milotic is brought out. Milotic is going to force damage on whatever comes in. And the Heatran will go down, unsurprisingly. And Zapdos with pressure. And yeah, like I said, the Zapdos has no Roost PP left. And Gliscor, assuming this outspeeds, it should be able to outstall the Hidden Power Ices. And the crucial thing to remember here is that with the Gliscor, whenever it reaches up, it loses its flying typing. So this means that Hidden Power Ice is only ×2 effectiveness, not quadruple. And if I'm Christos, I'm clicking Roost, like, until there is 0 chip damage left. But again, has to be careful risking a crit, and Christos, seeing that it does over half, opts to Ice Fang, connects on the Zapdos, and Christos walks away with a win here. Christos moves to 2-2 on the season, We Free Kings this season is now sitting at 2-5. Been a very, very difficult season and a brutal loss. A couple things to highlight here was that the Celebi getting crit by the Gliscor was real rough, and then like Christos losing the Jirachi made this PP stall war even more complicated than it might have been originally, because it gave Christos like less assets to play with. And then the Milotic getting tricked, so effectively it never got to recover much, among other things. And Christos almost did let that game slip away from him, but congratulations to Christos on winning. That game was about 40 minutes long. Jesus. And that being said, though, if you guys enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.